Thinking of moving, visiting, or retiring in Panama, this may be a good video for you. Follow along.
Hey, you watching, man? Right now, you're watching DC Born Rob on YouTube.
All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located. My name is Rob Christian, also known as DC Born Rob or DC Rob or Rob. Answer to them all. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, I have another interview today. Today, I am speaking with Denise. So you're a traveler, correct? You enjoy
Yes, my friends would say I'm a traveler. I just think it's kind of routine. My career was in the military. So within the concept of my work, I moved around the majority of my career. So once I retired in 2000, it was pretty hard to sit still. So my friends would say I'm a traveler. I'm originally from Jamaica, so I don't consider it, since I'm not in Jamaica, I don't really have a home per se. So I'm always looking to go places, new places, someplace other than sitting in one spot, not moving around. So yes, I'm a traveler.
Okay, so you're in the US now?
Yes, I'm physically in Northern California. I'm talking to you from Northern California.
Okay, I got you, but you were born in Jamaica. Okay, so is the reason you like to travel because of the military?
I wouldn't say. I just think it's interesting to visit other countries, see how other people live. I think sometimes, especially when you're born in the United States, which is considered a first world country, you get used to a lot of privileges and amenities. And sometimes I think we don't appreciate it, the United States as much for all we have. And one of the things I think that open up your eyes about what you have in life, the good parts of your life, is when you go to foreign countries and see how other people live. So I'm always interested in traveling abroad, as we say at home, to see how other people live, experience the culture, experience the food. And I just think it's good education in general to know. And it's also, if you study history, which I'm no history buff, so don't ask me anything historical, but if you do study some history and you read about places in books, I think it's nice to go see it in person, see it live.
Exactly. What countries have you been to?
Well, I'll start with my military career. My first duty station was Bermuda, which was a gift, because being Caribbean Jamaican, what better life than being in the military living in Bermuda. Then I went to DC for an assignment where I was the housing team officer, and our job was to travel throughout the United States and overseas, inspecting housing, family and single and family housing. So within that job, I went to Spain, I went to the Azores, I went to Naples, Italy, Hawaii, and then some other cities in the United States. And then when I retire, in general, I keep going. Jamaica, of course. I've been to the Bahamas. I've been to Barbados, Barcelona since retiring. And I'm trying to remember all the places. So I've been a few places.
Okay, yeah, you've been quite a few. What'd you think of Barcelona, by the way?
I actually had just had a baby then, and I went with my husband. He was there for business. I liked it. I thought the people were pretty friendly. Of course, I've read something in recent years in terms of racial issues there. I did not experience that. We stayed in the city. We stayed at the Ritz Hotel, which was fantastic. In fact, I loved it so much, I decided to come back to the States and design my bathroom like the one I was in. So that I remember, because I love that. And they had, lots of places to visit, different food. I liked it.
Yeah, we were there a couple of years ago, enjoyed it, but got the feeling everybody was trying to steal from me. There's a pickpocketing issue there. And so the whole time, everybody that I looked at, I thought, are they trying to take, just everybody I spoke to. So I couldn't enjoy it for that. But still, it's nothing like leaving the country and going to.
It was a long time ago, and sometimes places change over time, especially when it comes to crime. So I don't recall having that experience when I was there, or that being an issue.
Okay. Well, Panama. So you purchased land in Panama? Are you under construction right now with the house?
No. Well, no. I started from paper, but no, we did this about 4 years ago. The bottom line is I have a couple of friends, Jamaican. One is a doctor and one is a nurse. And They lived down here in California, returned to Jamaica, thought they were going to retire there, but end up returning to the United States and then moved to the West Coast. And during their time, they did a lot of traveling. He was actually a doctor in the Navy, really briefly. And on one of his trips, I used to tell the story wrong. He just corrected me recently. They had a trip planned somewhere that was canceled, and they decided to go to Panama. And on the plane, they met somebody who had settled there and was talking about how great it was. So they just decided to go back there and check it out. They had traveled all over, Europe and some of the islands trying to decide where to retire. So the bottom line is they loved it. They moved, and they would call me constantly about coming to look. They were really looking for company is what I think it is. But I started looking at Overseas Living. Are you familiar with that international magazine, Overseas Living? International Living. It's a magazine. It might be hard copy, but at the time I know it was online. I used to get it. And they talk about Americans retiring in countries overseas. And it was Panama, Costa Rica, Brazil, lots of other places. But the top two, it went between Costa Rica and Panama. So I just decided after a telephone conversation of my friends asking me for the 1000th time to come and check it out, to go. And I went. I spent 2 weeks. Noel, the husband, he took me around all over Panama City, took me out in the interior, as they call it. And first, when I landed, I have to tell you, I was like, oh my God, this is Manhattan. I'm not a big fan of New York City with all the high rise and the people and the hustle and the bustle. And then I'm used to landing in Jamaica, where when you land, there's the sea and the airport is right at the edge of the ocean. And there's this long drive into the city. Well, when you land in Panama, it's pretty big city. And the drive into the big city, there is no water to see visibly right away. So that took me aback. But then after a couple of weeks of looking around, and then I went and I spoke to a realtor, I just saw a lot of opportunities for buying property to invest. So I spoke to a realtor, and I came back home and I said to my husband, I said, I think we should go buy something, even if we don't decide to move there. And so the Christmas, I went this summer, the Christmas, the entire family, my husband and I have 3 children. So we went. We spent Christmas, and the same realtor took my husband around. And by the end of, I think we spent a week, he loved the place. He said she took him to a development. They were planning to build some high rises in Panama, which, by the way, my entire life I said I would never live in a high rise. But we stayed in this hotel right down Panama. I can't remember what the name of it, but it's the hotel with all the features about the famous musicians and singers right in the city. And we were on, 40-something floor, but it didn't feel like I was up that high. So when we went and saw the floor plans for this high rise, my husband loved it. And I just sat in the corner while he talked to the realtor and the builder. And next thing I knew, we left with a contract. And I wasn't going to say anything because that's what I wanted anyway, but I just didn't think it was going to be that easy. So we left that Christmas with a contract to build, and it took about, they delivered almost on time. It was, from paper, like I said, and about 1.5 years to build. And there's a process, which I could talk about if you want to. And that's how we purchased. And ever since then, I've been going back and forth. He's still worked until April of this year. He's now retired, but I was the one who basically did all the how should I say, negotiations and getting everything inspected, because I'm the one with the language proficiency. And we ended up buying, and I love it. I go there at every opportunity I can. I really do.
So it's a condo that you purchased on the 40th floor.
A condo on the 40th floor in Panama City itself. And there are little cities, like my condo is in a place called Bella Vista. And there's lots of other little cities around and lots of construction going on. So it's the major cities, and then you can leave the city and go out in what they call the interior to some of the other cities outside of the main one, Panama, where you can buy and live. And expats are all over Panama.
Okay. So if you had to pass on advice, why Panama? Why Panama City? Why a condo in Panama City?
Well, like I mentioned, I started checking International Living, and they talked about retiring overseas on a lot less money than you could in the United States. And I just said to my husband, we came to America for a better life. We could go retire anywhere else for a better life in retirement. So that was the first thing. And then there were 2 economic crashes, and I've been home and I was tracking the economy, and I just felt, you know what? We need an exit strategy in case something got so bad in America that we wouldn't want to stay there. So that was the first reason. The cost of living is pretty low. Buying is affordable. Renting is way affordable. Food is affordable. And you're doing all this in US dollars because the Panama dollars are on par with the US. So if you want a higher standard of living, so to speak, depending on how you live here already, and you can't afford it here in the US, you know, Panama is a city I think you can go and afford it. So I just wanted to have a place in case we couldn't go back to Jamaica, which was the original plan, something close. And my friends were already there. They had a realtor. They knew people in government, you know, that they had everything set up. So it was easy to ride their coattail. So I would say, if you're here and you're in, for example, in California, we've been here for years, but, you know, California is known to be a very expensive city. I actually live in Silicon Valley. So let's say you wanted the lifestyle of, you know, a big house and near the water, then you can easily afford that in Panama and some of the other countries overseas. So the reason for moving is I figured if I ever had to leave America and I can't go to Jamaica, I had to find a place that was similar, close, and Panama was it for me.
I got you. So the cost of living is good. Now you said they take the US dollar, or is that
it's on par? So in other words, it's equal exchange. So when you go in the stores or the restaurants, you pay in US dollar, or most times US, because that's what I have, but they're equal. So there's no exchange, go exchange your US dollars. Like you go to Jamaica, you have to exchange your US dollars for Jamaican dollars. You don't have to do that in Panama because it's 1 for 1, as they say.
Okay.
In other words, the economy is good, so it's 1 for 1.
Okay, so they have their own money.
Currency, yes. Yeah. They have their own currency, but you don't necessarily have to change. So when you go in a store, you can pay in Panamanian currency or you can pay in US currency.
Okay.
1 for 1.
I didn't know that. I didn't. That's why you're on here. I didn't know that. So somebody else is not going to know that too. So what parts are good for visitors, for first time to Panama, or what parts are good to live in?
Wow. Again, it's kind of a big place. So what I would say is, like any place else, if you want to go live there, I would really recommend subscribing to International Living. And I can't call any names because I don't follow any one person, but I know there are lots of bloggers and there are different people whose business is to help what they call expats, which is what you would be wanting to live in Panama. So I would say connect with one of those groups. Most of them that I've spent time watching, what they present is very accurate in terms of the information. When it comes to language, I'm probably not the best person to comment because since I studied Spanish for years, I don't have a language challenge. But I will say that I met a lot of Americans and, you know, people from other countries who didn't know a lick of Spanish, and they did just fine. So that, you know, people are thinking of relocating, might say, I don't know the language, so I can't go there. I don't know what it feels like not to know it, but I can just tell you that there are a lot of people who move there who don't speak Spanish. Where to go, where to live, it's such a big place. There's so many places that are nice. I think you just have to go. I would say start in the city, go to a hotel. There are all kinds of hotels from upscale and what we would call, I don't know, middle of the road hotel is kind of upscale there. So in other words, they have such a variety of hotels that are nice and the pricing goes high or low. You'll be able to find a hotel that you can afford, I think, regardless of what your economic level is, so to speak. And just, you know, connect with somebody who provides that service and just go and tour. If you want to live in the city where you have access to just about everything and can walk, I'm a senior citizen. So when we're looking at being in a place where we can walk to everything. I don't need to take the taxi. I don't need to have a car. So where I am in La Bella Vista, or even in Panama City, you can do that. Now, if you want countryside living and you want to go out into the interior, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. You would now be a bus ride or a taxi ride or your own car to drive you out. So there's just such a potpourri of options. It's just hard to give any one place. So I just say, come to the city, find, book a place and get online, book your hotel in Panama. And if you can connect, if you Google, there are different groups, small family groups, people who have lived there who decide to make it a business to introduce Panama and help people get settled. Connect with one of those groups. The other thing I want to mention as a military person, the Army was there for years. And so there's a huge population of military, and they actually have a hospital that they built just for us. So they cater, if you're a military person retired and you're worried about being able to get all your benefits in a hospital, they have that all connected for you in Panama. So I would just say, go, check it out. Maybe stay in a hotel for a while, do more than one visit. Lots of options for buying homes, new homes, homes been around, homes in the city, homes in the interior. So the options are many. I would just say you go check out and find your water level, as we'd say at home.
Okay, so there you go. Go get a hotel, get an Airbnb, go a few times, take a look around, use some companies, and you're there. Now,
wait, can I say one thing? Can I say one thing? I don't know much about Airbnbs being big there, because there's so many hotels and the price ranges are vary. I mean, if they are, I don't know about that. People doing Airbnbs as they like in other places. I'm sure they are, but I just don't know. I just know there are lots of hotels.
Sure, no worries. So that's as far as looking around and finding a place. Are there any no-go zones, certain parts of town you should not go in?
I don't really want to disparage any particular place, especially when I've only heard about it myself. I haven't been there. I mean, people talk about areas of Colón that could be, not the best place to go. But like a lot of places in America, they tell you, especially as a person of color, don't go there. And then when you go, you find out there's nothing wrong with it. So I personally don't have anywhere that I'm going to say don't go. I mean, I've heard that Colón might not be a place you just want to drive into, but again, I would check it out. Taxi drivers usually know the good and the bad places. So if you have an interest in knowing where the bad places are, then I would say ask the taxi driver. I've never really asked them, so I wouldn't sit here and say, don't go here and don't go there.
Okay. And to my viewers, do due diligence and investigate on your own before you go anywhere, really. Even before you book a hotel or an Airbnb. Be careful as far as where you're going. Sometimes rumors are true. Sometimes they're not. Most of the time they're not, to be honest with you. So many people for years have said, don't go to El Salvador. Don't go to San Salvador. I went and we loved it. Didn't have a problem at all. So my next question to you, Denise, would be, what's overall safety like? I mean, you felt comfortable. Correct.
So that's another thing. So I have yet to live there 12 months straight out of the year. But my friends have been there for 5 years and they have been fine. When I go there, I visit with other Americans who have been there, who are settled there. And I don't hear anybody complaining about, crime or being uncomfortable or worrying about their safety. So again, my perspective might be very different if I was living there every single day, moving about the people in the community. Where I live, I mean, I know in my last visit, a friend of mine who's Panamanian who lived there said they've had some people who were robbing, some of the businesses in the area of Bella Vista. So if there's a crime issue, I don't know about it. When I go there, I feel safe. I walk around the city. I take the taxis. I take the train. I just don't have any problems. So maybe check the news, you know what I mean? Or check before you go.
Sure.
What's happening. Yeah, but I was just there in June, and I did stay inside because, COVID was raging there and they did have curfews. But I'm not aware of any crime that would stop me from going at this point, unlike some other places we know where it's headline news. And, the embassy saying, don't go, that kind of thing. I'm not aware of that for Panama.
Okay. Again, do due diligence. And check out the website Numbeo, like I mentioned with Razor Rays. Check out Numbeo, Numbeo, to my viewers who want to investigate any country, any city, any country in the world. You can do comparisons. And these comparisons are done from individuals such as yourself. Say, for instance, Denise goes there and she says, okay, cost of living is this. This is how much milk costs. This is how much my electricity costs. This is what I think about crime. This is how I'm safe during the day, during nighttime. All that information is in Numbeo and it's free. So if you want to do some comparisons, you want to jump between Panama and Medellin, Colombia, and you'll see the differences in safety and crime. And my next question, what are your thoughts or what information do you have or feedback that you have to offer about healthcare?
Well, again, for an expat like myself, number one, this is personal experience, and I usually like to talk about that. First thing, there's a lot of good healthcare. That's the first thing. Second thing, the price of it is nowhere compared to the US, and it just makes my blood just boil. I've gone there and paid for my exam where I have my eyes dilated, my eyes checked. I've had a tooth root canal, $400 and something I paid for out of my own pocket after I got messed up here by my dentist of many years. What else have I had there? Eyes check, root canal. That's most of the work I've had, but I've had friends there. The other thing is drugs there, everything is over the counter except for the narcotics that are illegal. So, and what I like, we used to do that in Jamaica in the early years. They don't give you a whole bunch of pills, charge you for them that you don't even need. So you end up taking 2 weeks worth and you're better. And the other 2 weeks, you end up throwing the garbage. You can buy, if you need aspirins for 2 aspirins, you can go in there and say, give me 2. You know what I mean? So it's way different. And then I mentioned to you, there's a military hospital. I haven't gone over there, La Brisa, but I went to a little, what should I say, presentation they did. They had a lunch and a big thing to, inform all the military of the services over there. So it to me, way less expensive. And my experience with the doctors, way better. They have doctors that you can call directly on the phone. They're at the beach. They're answering the phone. They have doctors that will come to your house. They have, it's a variety of healthcare. Again, my limited circle of friends, I haven't heard anybody complain when it comes to healthcare. And I know for myself, the cost is very affordable.
So well, when you say affordable, that's out of pocket or is the insurance?
Well, they have different insurance program because I'm not there all the time. So well, let me clarify. Number one, I do have a resident, what's equivalent to a resident visa. I have what's called a cedula, and that you get based on buying property and applying that you want to be retired in Panama. So they have a retirement program, and remind me to come back to that. Mm-hmm. So with my cedula, of course, I get discounts on the drugs in the store and discounts on different things, food at restaurants. But even without that, before the discount is applied, I told you, I couldn't pay, well, I could afford it, but root canal over here is not $450 if you've ever had one, and look at the bill that they bill the doctor. So from my experience and my friends that live there, it is way less than what you pay over here. Most of the time, you can't pay anything out of pocket because it's thousands of dollars. Even the drugs is ridiculously priced. Mm-hmm. Why that is, I'm waiting for somebody to give me a good explanation. Why we pay so much for drugs here and you can go to other countries and it doesn't cost that much. Now, my husband did mention that the Panamanian government subsidized, the medical services in Panama. Well, this is America, first world country, Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Most countries do. It's unfortunate that, and I won't even get on it because I'll get upset. Most Latin and Central America and South American countries have good healthcare. I mean, everybody knows I blog for Medellin, Colombia, and I truly believe in it. I have a dentist there. Shout out to Carlos. I have a dentist there that takes care of me now more so than my main dentist here. Before if I had to get some work done now, I would not get it done here in the U.S. I would fly to Medellin, Colombia to get it done.
Well, that's kind of what I've been doing for certain things because I'm just so sick of the hassle. And Yeah, and the thing I feel like when I go to the doctors there, they're kind of still old fashioned. They really care about when you walk in, nobody's rushing you, trying to, give you look at you for 2 seconds and diagnose you and walk out. They're really looking, studying, trying to figure out what's wrong with you. So I feel like they care. When I had my, at my age, my husband said, we don't take out our teeth. And this dentist who created the problem to begin with, she was ready to offer me dental implants. Well, I went there and, a couple of visits and he dug, but I still have my teeth in my mouth. So, yeah, I feel the doctors there are much more caring in terms of the service they deliver. It's kind of old-fashioned medicine in a way, even though they have a lot of modern equipment. So, but the doctors are just really caring, the ones I've dealt with for my issues.
I agree. I had dental work done in Medellin maybe 3 months ago, and I needed to have the expensive X-ray, the thing that moves around. I forgot what it's called. You have to go to a special facility because of the radiation. And I was there maybe 7-8 minutes, and I walked out with my X-ray. Who does that? They gave me the X-ray. It cost me $6, $5, something like that. And he still had it electronically by the time I got to the dentist. And it was a little weird. It is too weird when your dentist or your doctor is talking to you like, okay, let me explain this to you. And you're going, okay, it's been 10 minutes. You still explaining? I'm used to being rushed like here in the US. Okay, it's this and that. You get it? Yeah. Okay, check his insurance and make sure his insurance is good. Well, we can't see you before your insurance. It doesn't operate like that. So yeah, it takes some getting used to when somebody pays attention to you like they really should.
Yeah. In fact, on one of my dental appointments, it was my eye appointment, after they checked my eyes and everything, they didn't offer, to charge me. And I said, how much is it? And the nurse looked at, because it was the second time I was going, and he goes, $20. I was like, okay, $20. But I have to say, I had to ask to be charged. It was a follow-up visit, and I think they weren't really going to charge me. And they just said $20. And I know it's more than $20 here for all of that work. So, yeah, so that's another reason to consider living overseas, even if you're not there permanently. Like I said, I'm not there every day right now because, I have a young son in college, so I'm back and forth. But if you're in retirement and you're struggling here to, put food on your table, especially with what's going on with COVID and the unemployment, you may want, you just have to get on the plane and be brave enough to go check it out. Because what I find is a lot of people, they're so used to living in America where everything is so available, even with the problems and the challenges, and the life isn't what it could be, but they're scared of venturing beyond the borders. And a lot of times because of, misinformation too. So I say, if you're here, I was just reading before coming on here, somebody on the internet who during COVID went to Costa Rica, a couple of people, as a matter of fact, and they're now moving for good. And they talk about just the peace and the tranquility, none of this racial issue. Granted, in these islands, there's a class thing, and we could debate that whether it's the same or different, because I've had that discussion with my colleagues all the years I've been here. But there's something for peace and tranquility. And I love going to Panama. I get in the elevator, somebody's always saying hello, buenos dias, or goodbye. People don't just walk by you necessarily and not speak. In fact, probably we do it more than they do. People are much, in my experience, people are a lot more friendly. And now some of the shops you go into, we have a particular ethnic group that runs the shops, but they're the same everywhere. But once they get to know you, then they too are pretty nice, So I just love the experience here. And then being Jamaican, there's a lot of reggaeton, there's a lot of Jamaican food. It's hardly any different. So it's like being at home, but not being at home,
Excellent. Well, Denise, you've answered all the questions that I had ready for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to just add or discuss separately?
Sure. I wanted to share in terms of buying, which, there are a lot of Americans. I know I have some friends, military, who are getting ready to retire for the second time, and they really want to have something overseas, even if you're not there every day. Panama has a retiree program. In other words, they love to get people, expats, and basically non-Panamanians, to retire in Panama. So they have a very special program designed for if you decide to buy, you get a tax break. And, you know, some of these things can change. I did this over 4 years ago, so you can check into it. But, you know, you can get what's equivalent to their permanent visa, they call it a cedula. And normally you need your Social Security retirement information, because that's what they go on. And you can apply to become a permanent resident if you decide you want to own something overseas. And some of my friends are doing that just to have vacation property. So they retire and they're keeping their house in DC or Maryland or somewhere cold. And then they're planning to buy something. Some of them are going outside of the city. I think if you can afford to do it, because, you know, I've been retired 21 years. And one of the things I learned in retirement, if you're not properly set up, you have to really be a good manager of your money. So if it's not something that was on your scope all along, and because of this program, you're going to think about it, just, you know, do some homework, do some planning. You may not want to buy, and maybe you want to rent, because rent is pretty inexpensive there. So if you're looking for somewhere to get away from the cold, maybe if you don't buy, you could establish a presence in a particular area where you go back to that same place every year, that same hotel, maybe there's an Airbnb. So I just think in general, there's a lot of opportunities for overseas living, whether you want to go young or you want to go in retirement. I think there are options, and Panama is just one of them. Costa Rica, people talk about Spain. There are people going to Barcelona, Brazil. You mentioned the place you blog for, and you talk about a lot of places where they have people, Americans living. So I'd say check it out. Just don't get too much in your head about what it's like living somewhere else, especially. And I noticed, if I could say this, among the African American community, I think I've met so many African Americans who just don't travel. They won't get on a plane. And I guess you can't do anything if you have fear of flying. I mean, one of my Jamaican friends, she has a fear of flying. And so she'll take the train, you know, from Chicago to visit me. But if you could get over whatever your fears are, fear of flying, fear of moving, fear of failure, and just go have the experience, even if you just do it for a visit. Go overseas, go see what's happening in the rest of the world. Wait till COVID is over with, and then go. Some people are going now.
I'm still going now.
Yeah.
I got back from Mexico.
If you're going now, just be careful, because I did travel to Panama this June. I didn't go in the middle of COVID. I haven't been to Jamaica right now, but eventually I'm going to go in for Christmas and New Year's to Panama. I'm pretty positive about that. But, you know, if you have never done it, just go see the rest of the world.
I appreciate it. One question I do get, so let me ask before we go. I always get this. Can you live, because I get it for Medellin, Colombia. Could I live there for $1,000 a month? Could I live there for $1,200 a month?
I think so, because, okay, well, right now, there are a lot of places closed. You know, COVID has impact everywhere economically. So I noticed when I was there in June, there are a lot of places closed. I'm told there are a lot of empty apartments right now because different people moved back to their original country, and because the jobs, you know, they couldn't afford to pay rent. Could you live in Panama on $1,000 a month? Again, I think it depends where you want to live. Yeah, you could probably rent somewhere, you know, and if you cook your own food, because, well, no, you can get a lot of places. There's such many places you can go eat. I think so, because electricity, well, maybe I can't answer that question because I go and come right now. I'm not permanently there. But I would say, ask one of the bloggers who are living there every day. I think you could. I think you could. Positively don't know. I know my electric bill when I'm there for peanuts. It's nothing. Water bill, nothing. I mean, relatively speaking, I live in California where the cost of living is very high. So for me, what I'm saying is nothing could be a lot to somebody else, you know, who lives in the southern part of the United States. So maybe I should try not to answer that. And I would say, check it out for yourself.
Yeah. Do due diligence, like I said.
Do due diligence. Yeah. Don't say you can't. How about this? How about I answer it this way? Don't say you can't if you have not even looked into it yourself. Don't listen to hearsay. You know, check it out yourself, because you can talk to people who live there. You can go online, see what the hotels are every day, what's being rented, what houses are available. And then food food runs a gamut of prices. Now, if you're looking, I eat mostly Jamaican food, so I don't even know. If you have some specialty in food that's only available in the States, then you know you're going into a Spanish-speaking country where their food is going to be more cultural. So I'm Jamaican, so I get Jamaican food because a lot of the foods that they cook Panamanian is what we grow in Jamaica. So it just depends on, I guess, on where you're from in the States and what you're used to eating. But you can find a variety of priced restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm going to add to her, don't say you can't. Don't say you can't anything. If you say you can't, odds are you can't now. Don't put that on yourself. Don't limit yourself by I can't. Don't start your sentences with I can't until you try.
Right. Can't is certainly, I'm not trying, right? C-A-N-T.
Exactly.
Certainly, I'm not trying.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And before I go, I also want to give you a big thank you for donating to my charity, which is the Camino Ocho in Medellin, Colombia. Much appreciation for that. Anyone who wants to donate, all the information's in the description of my videos. But I wanted to thank you personally on here and say thank you for donating that. I shipped it off the same day. So Andres is my guy there. He takes care of all of the funds down there to make sure it gets to the people that need the food and the clothing and whatever basic things that they've been struggling. A lot of countries have been struggling for the past year or so. So let's give back where we can. But thank you so much, Denise.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Of course, you know, I saw that story and I thought, oh my God, you know, and that's another thing when you travel overseas, we didn't talk about that. Respect the laws of the country and understand how things work so you can protect yourself. Exactly. And especially in a country where the language is not English, you know, you want to make sure you understand things that you're hearing and what you're saying, because it's probably easy, you know, if you think you can just go over there and, you know, do what you want, not pay attention to get in trouble. So
pay attention.
I work in the courts here, and I know, you know, a lot of immigrants come here and think they're back in their home country and they forgot the laws here and not Jamaican law wherever they're from, and before you know it, they're in jail, you know. So when you travel overseas, make sure you're aware of what the laws of the country are, what the culture is, things they do, things they don't do, things they say, things they don't say. This way, I think you'll have a better time of it.
Exactly. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, Denise. Valuable information. Somebody's going to get benefit out of it.
I hope so. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, have a good evening then.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
We have a YouTube channel. Like it. Please comment and share if you like the video. Please subscribe and kick the bell.